I'd rather create something that others criticize than create nothing and criticize others.
If you have high quality product behind the bar, it's like a weapon.
It's not about the figures, it's about who those figures are.
The Hospopreneurs Podcast.
I'm going to drink this beer.
Yeah, let's crack them.
With James Henderson.
Hello and welcome to episode 32 of the Hospopreneurs Podcast. On the show today, Asmar Gary brings his story, how he hustled in East Coast American bars, developed his own distribution network, and most recently, online learning platform, Branding for Bartenders. We talk marketing, business, drop some wisdom from a man who's inspired us both, Gary Vaynerchuk, and of course, discuss all things hospo. Cheers and enjoy. Hello and welcome to the show, Asmar.
Hey, what's up, bud?
Hey man, you know I like to start the show by asking if you have a crazy hospitality story.
I was working over at A Loft Hotel in Jacksonville about a few years ago. And, you know, hotel bars, you get a lot of travelers, people coming from everywhere. I had this guy come in, I think from Texas, and he stayed with us for about the whole weekend. And the whole weekend, he was blitzed. I mean, literally blitzed from morning to night. I don't think I served him a drink. I think he was just hotel drinking or poolside drinking. And this guy, he came up and asked me for a drink. I had to deny, I had to cut him off before he even got started because he stumbled up to the bar. He went off. He went off. We had a pool table and he went and grabbed the pool stick. Yeah, it got really crazy, really loud. And good thing we had security to shut it down. But it is one of the craziest things I've seen for someone to walk around a hotel totally blitzed for the whole weekend.
Man, and then so explosively aggressive. That's crazy.
Very aggressive. And that's the crazy part. It's like you've been drinking all weekend, but when you come to the bar, now you want to get a drink and get crazy.
Dude, that's out of control.
Yeah.
As you know, I like to start with a story, but what I want to even just share with guests is how we met.
The great old social media, man. You know, Instagram, DMing is the way to get to who you want to know, who you want to connect with, work with. And that's basically what it was, man. I guess we had like a natural attraction that pulled us together. For one, you know, I am big on entrepreneurship as a bartender. And for your brand, Hospopreneurs, again, it was just like a natural attraction. And social media brought it together.
Yes. I've connected with a few of my guests on social media, particularly through Instagram. I found it a really awesome channel. And on the previous episode with Ella Golding, she talks a lot about like that. That's the whole episode. So if you're listening at home and you're interested in learning more about social media and building a brand on social media, this episode and the episode prior to this are gold. So get amongst that. Asmar, I want to ask you why you do what you do, because we're going to open up a little more about what and about social media a little bit later in the episode, but I want to know what it really is that inspires you.
Bartending itself, I mean, I just love the hospitality. I love being social, love meeting new people, and the creativity that I'm able to express by making drinks that I do make. So that's the one thing. But I like to focus more on the business side. And the reason that I'm so passionate about it is because it's something that you make for yourself. You can go and apply for a job and you'll work under management and you won't fully be able to grow and express yourself like you would if you were an independent entrepreneur. And the reason that I do what I do now is just to share it with other bartenders. That's it.
Again, I suppose what inspires you is inspiring other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why we really connected. We're going to open up a little more about what it is that you're doing now. And that's why I wanted to ask about why you do what you do. Do you know what your why is?
Again, the why is really just to get more bartenders in the entrepreneurial mindset. That's my why. I just want to share the experiences that I've come across as a bartender and transitioning into brand ambassador and brand consulting. Not a lot of bartenders are there yet in that mindset of branding for themselves or doing for themselves.
What we're talking about here, yes, it's with bartenders, but it can be applied across all areas of hospitality.
Absolutely.
You know, and like when you talk about brand ambassadorship or building influence, that's applicable anywhere. It doesn't have to be even hospitality. It can be far more broad than just hospitality. What we're talking about here is building a brand and influence, and then sharing that with other people, and building, learning, growing, building, and creating things, expressing yourself creatively. Man, I'm really excited to delve more into the episode. We really connected over Gary Vaynerchuk. Can you tell us about how Gary V inspires you?
The Vayner Nation, yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Gary V, he's explosive. That's one of the biggest things that I like about him. He has so much energy and passion.
And sorry to interrupt you there, for our listeners at home, tell us a bit about Gary V in your answer as well.
I mean, it's crazy because Gary, you know, he's mid-40s, but he is very inspirational to a lot of the younger generation. To the guys that are 20s or just graduating college, he's the one that inspires them to not go the predetermined direction. He'll tell you to screw your mother because she's telling you to do something that will benefit her instead of benefiting you. And that's really why I connect with him, and his message definitely resonates with me.
He's all about you do you, and I love that.
Right, and that's it. And that's exactly what he's about. Follow your own path, and if anyone's trying to force you down that path, screw them.
How do you apply his teachings in hospitality?
Again, it's doing your own thing, you know, lighting your own way. And that's what I talk about with branding. Everyone's brand is different, and individuality comes with every bartender or every person in hospitality. Is you want to express it. It's all about pushing it in your light.
For anyone at home who doesn't know who Gary V is, in the business world, or particularly in the startup world, he's a digital marketer, business development character, and he's become a real influencer in the scene. Sometimes I like to avoid the word influencer because I think it's even overused now. I know I used it a bit in the previous episode, but he is a public figure in the business scene, particularly in the marketing scene. And what Azzy and I today are going to talk a bit more about is how we can apply these teachings from business and in marketing in the hospitality world. What I want to ask you, Azzy, is, you know, you're doing some really exciting things at the moment. Tell us about what you're building.
Well, right now, what I'm building is a small consulting agency. I started as a bartender about 8 years ago and slowly transitioned into brand ambassadorships. So I took on my first brand ambassador role in 2014 and worked with a brand from New York called Vaynerchuk. And basically, I just ran around running the streets, getting them placement, having new liquor stores, bars, restaurants, clubs pick up cases of their product and be the face of it, be the one that's running, doing the setups, the tastings, the dinner events, and a lot of social media promotion. From there, I love the industry. I love what I was able to do, how I was able to actually work my bar jobs at night and during the daytime, still be able to work, run a sales position.
How did you get that job? You know, did they just approach you to be a brand ambassador?
It was word of mouth. I'm originally from Philadelphia, so I had a few New York connections. Actually, it was a music label. They hired me as their bartender for a record release party, and they were looking for liquor sponsorships. Somehow me and Vaynerchuk connected by a mutual friend, and I actually brought them in as the liquor sponsor for this music event. And from there, the relationship grew. And that was it. I mean, I jumped into it, and I seen it as a brand ambassador position at that point in time. But over the years, I'm actually consulting. And that's what I chose to build my brand as. So now we're running a small consulting firm where we're working with 3 different brands from New York, California, and Florida.
It's a crazy story, but it's obviously one that's common in the scene, is that people tend to meet someone or know someone, particularly in hospitality. We meet so many people all the time. You obviously connect with someone, one thing leads to another, and it's this humble beginning that then can evolve if we play our cards right. So you've obviously started with Vodkilla and it's grown from there. How did you go through that process, and did you have someone to help you through that journey to then turn it into more of a consulting brand?
I really just had trial and error. My first brand ambassador job, I didn't get paid. I was unpaid. They would send me cases of alcohol and I would go out and I promote it. My pay was whatever I was able to drink. That was it. Again, it was, trial and error. I knew that I could get paid, but I didn't know just getting started and who I was that I could really get paid doing this. It wasn't until I got with my second brand, SX Liquors, where I did actually have a mentor who was Scott Folkins, sales manager for SX. And he basically showed me the ropes. He's a longtime Procter and Gamble executive, and he knows a hell of a lot about sales and marketing.
How did you get into hospitality, Azzy?
Really, it was one of those things that I didn't know what else to do. It's one of the easier jobs that I can pick up. I started as a dishwasher at Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse in Philadelphia and came and wanted to be a server. So I told my manager, hey, you mind if I serve? He let me serve. And it really wasn't until about 2 years after I became a server that I started really getting into the bartending side of it.
And you said that's also in Jacksonville. Tell us about your experience across other states as well. You've obviously had contact with a lot of other people, even across the US now. What are some differences that you've seen within the American market?
Well, actually, July, I just came back from Trinidad, Tobago, spent a week in Jamaica. And of course, the rum culture there is extremely big. That was one thing that I was really anticipating seeing is how they do their rum, how well they market it and who they have influencing it in their state or in their country. So what I've seen that they do differently is they are still very passionate about it, but it is so integrated into the travel where people come off of their ship, they're automatically right there with bottles of rum. Whereas, in the States, it's a little more subtle marketing.
Do you think that that's just how it works in America, and what do you mean there? I've got so many questions on that one.
Yeah, it could be just, the going into the tourism spaces where they're pushing a lot more of their products on people that are from out of the country or out of the state. What I've seen is they are more passionate about their spirits in different countries than I think we are here.
Okay. Is it about the spirits from that country?
Yeah, I mean, everything that they make there in either Puerto Rico rum or the Trinidad rum, it is all from their turf. So they're using all natural ingredients, everything that they're growing there. And that's why I think they're more passionate about it.
How much harder does that make it to actually sell products from outside that country?
Well, I think it actually makes it a little bit easier, come to think of it, because being here, there's some things that we can't get. I'm sure over in Melbourne, there's a spirit that you guys have that I wouldn't be able to go and pick up at my local store. So that it gives it more of a value. So I think it would be easier to push here.
But even if people are super passionate about the products that they have from their particular country, you think that that's an advantage because it's a differentiating factor?
It's more like the novelty.
Yeah, I see. Okay, cool. Azzy, man, we've gotten carried away with talking about bartending, but let's go back to what it is that you're building right now. Tell us a bit about that.
What we're working on is branding for bartenders. January 1st, launching the first online course in a series of courses that we're coming out with. The first one, it's basically getting bartenders in the mindset of branding themselves. You know that everyone has a personal brand. It's all about how you draw it out, how you're able to define it. And that's what the course is about.
Is that something that you guys really need in the States? Or do you feel this is an international concern as well?
It's personal branding. Everyone has one. Everyone has a personal brand, whether you want it or not. It's basically what people are saying about you when you're not around. So for a bartender, you make a specific drink that you love, that you're passionate about. It may be a margarita, a mojito, or Manhattan, but your guests, they're going to know you for that. They're going to know that James, he makes a great Manhattan. That becomes a part of your brand. And for bartenders, the way that you can capitalize off that and really build from that is if you're known for that Manhattan, you should try your damnedest to be the greatest at it. You should enter every Manhattan making competition. You should be making different variations of Manhattans for your cocktail menus. This is what you should be posting on your social media every week or every day about Manhattans. And that's basically what it is, defining something that you're already known for.
That's interesting. You sort of identify something that makes you unique and then go all in on that. I like that too. That echoes a lot of Gary Vee's sentiments as well. So I can see where his influence comes from.
That's where, like I said with the Manhattan, I have a section called Choosing Your Spirit's Animal. And that's basically what it's about. It's finding that spirit that you're really passionate about, whether you like drinking it yourself or you just like creating the drinks for your guests. This is one that you really, really want to go all in on.
Is the course that you're building focused on bartenders or does it apply to other hospitality professionals?
No, it is specifically for bartenders. It can apply to others, definitely. It's really, the gist of it is personal branding. You can take some of the teachings and apply it to different positions in the hospitality industry. But what we were really focusing on is the bartenders.
I want to ask you, Azzy, what are you learning about or exploring at the moment?
One thing that I'm learning is marketing, inbound marketing, outbound marketing, and just being able to get more people to hear our message. So I've been working hard on funnels and landing pages and even messenger bots. I want to be able to communicate a little bit better with the online community of bartenders that we have. Being a part of the USBG, we usually have a bunch of group messages that we have going on, whether it's about a local competition or just a get together. I've been working on trying to basically streamline the communication that we have with our bartenders.
And these sorts of groups exist all over the world too. And we've got one in Brisbane called the Brisbane Bartenders Network, which is a Facebook group. And then there's the Melbourne Bartenders Exchange. They're all over the world, and this is obviously even bigger because this is the US, but like United States Bartenders Guild. So it's covering so many more people across so many more states. What I want to ask you next, Azzy, is what innovations are taking place right now in the industry?
Well, in the bar industry, everything has an Uber of it now. There's an Uber of this and an Uber pizza shop and things like that. So one of the last things that I seen was Uber for Bartenders, which is basically a staffing agency where if you're looking to hire a bartender last minute, I think they have like a 60-minute cutoff. You can literally go on an app and say, hey, I have a 4-hour event coming up in the next 2 hours and I need 2 bartenders. And they're on their way.
I like that, man. I like that. I'm going to work to find out who they are and connect with them. We don't have that.
One that's notable right now is Drizzly in the States, where they're doing the liquor delivery. You can call up or tap into your app and say, hey, I need 2 bottles of Smirnoff here pronto, and they'll bring it.
Man, some next level stuff coming out of the States. We definitely need a bit of that in Australia. There are a couple that do similar things to that, the home delivery booze, and also there are companies that are doing something similar to the Uber of bartending or Uber of hospitality, and I'm really excited to see these innovations take place because it's obviously something I'm super passionate about with hospopreneurs. I asked about what's taking place now, but what have you seen to sort of lead to that?
Just the creativity in itself, where you have bartenders that are branding their ice. That's innovative. You actually have a stamp on your ice with your hotel's logo. Things like that excite me because it's, again, all about the branding, how you're putting your message out there. Over the past few years, ice has been big. And people have been doing amazing things with that.
Are those sorts of techniques commonplace in America?
Well, now they are because we're big on commercialism in the States. Having your logo on something that's not typical is something that has become more common.
The Americans are incredible at innovating, and it's a real culture in the States to do that. And I always love talking to Americans for that reason. So it gets me so pumped because in Australia, people like to innovate, but it's not as much of the core Australian culture as it is in America. So it always really excites me. Azzy, I want to ask you, what's your creative process or the steps that you take to make your ideas a reality?
Early morning. That's all I can say.
Yeah?
And I'm up every day at about 6 o'clock and I do my meditation. I get about 10 minutes of meditation in and really just clear my head. Getting feedback from the bartenders. So I've also been out at a few bars in the past couple weeks, just finding out what the future looks like for bartenders. How do you plan to brand yourself and grow in the industry? The biggest question that I was asked before I started the course was, how did you get with your first liquor company? And I'm still answering that question today to a lot of bartenders, and I love it. I love it because the only answer is branding and being proactive.
With that branding, so you say branding, but what does that actually mean?
It means just defining what you're good at. Like I said earlier, you take something that you are already known for and your skill set is high in, and you develop your brand around that.
I guess it's leveraging your strengths, isn't it? We have to explore and find our strengths and weaknesses and then leverage our strengths. This is going to divide a lot of people, and people have varying opinions on this. Some people say you should work on your weaknesses and build that up, but and from what I've heard, and I'm personally an advocate of finding your strengths and then leveraging your strengths. You can get other people to help with what you're shit at. Like other people can cover what you're bad at.
And I do believe that as well. I think I picked that up from Gary, where he said he was basically a fifth grade dropout, where his mom did not force him to be good at school because he just wasn't good at it. And that is basically what it is. Playing on your strength helps you build your brand because it's something, again, that you're good at and people know that you're good at.
What is it about the early morning that gets you into a creative state?
The fact that everyone else is sleeping.
I like that. This is something that hospitality really teaches people, man.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, it's the fact that I have a fresh slate.
Yeah.
Early mornings, it's nice and quiet. I have a beginning of my day where I can write out all my goals, my plans, and I haven't had a chance to screw it up yet.
Yeah, you made your bed. You've completed a task for the day. And then out. What I think of when someone explains to me that they're hustling when other people are sleeping, man, that's what hospitality is about. Like, when people are hustling, when people are working during the week, man, we work. And when people are partying on the weekend, man, we work. That's how we roll. That's just how we do. And that's what hospitality teaches you. There's always someone hustling. And if you want to get ahead, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep going when other people aren't. And I think we really connect there about, man, that was something that I noticed when we first had a chat. So I can tell that you're like that too. And I love that you're so passionate about the hustle and about particularly, that's probably why Gary V resonates as well.
Yeah, my personal slogan is no sleep for the ambitious. I actually used to wear a t-shirt that said that a few years ago.
If someone wants to do what you do, what advice do you have for them?
Find your strength and go all in on it. Again, the reason that I got into hospitality is because I didn't know what else I was going to do. I went to Penn State for some time and dropped out. I was going to be a fiber optic technician. It wasn't my strong point. So going into hospitality, that was my tie over until I found, that big job or find that corporate job. And this just happened to be what I was extremely good at. So again, just make sure that you're doing something that you are good at And on top of that, craft your brand around it. And if you are looking to go into being a brand ambassador, your brand is going to help you do that. There's going to be a company out there that loves what you do just because and be more willing to work with you for it.
And leveraging your strengths and honing in on what it is that you do. It also, there's this undertone that we haven't really mentioned yet, and that's that you have to be authentic in what you do. And just be really honest with who you are and convey that publicly and not be afraid to convey that publicly. That's a point that I just needed to make there to tack onto the end of what you're saying. Azzy, I want to ask you quickly, what's your number one industry resource? This can be a book, a website, a person, literally anything.
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of my biggest resources now because I get a lot of industry insights, industry news from there. I guess I can say any media channel, but LinkedIn is big because for the hospitality industry, it's a meeting place. Those are where your biggest resources come from, are the people that you meet.
What's your biggest challenge right now?
I'd say the biggest challenge is letting go of a lot of the things that I have to manage. I'm not really good at delegating some of the tasks that I don't necessarily need to oversee, but I'm just so comfortable and so used to handling everything.
You sound a lot like a lot of people who have this problem, and I think that a lot of people think, I know how to do that thing, I'm better than everyone else at doing that particular thing, I'm just going to do it. The trouble there is obviously that if you're doing everything, then you can't free up your time for what you're really good at and applying those creative skills to be able to be thinking in a more abstract and lateral way to solve higher level problems.
That's a challenge that I have been working on. Virtual assistants is one thing that I have started using recently just for the small, administrative tasks. But yeah, that's a challenge that I am working on. And
what virtual assistant are you using?
I'm using one from Fiverr. So nothing big, nothing very expensive. I found one that I did really connect with, that we worked pretty good with. It's going so far so good right now.
That's awesome, man. That's probably something I need to talk a little bit more about on the show too. It's not really covered much in the hospitality world. So virtual assistants, and obviously they'll become a lot more of a prevalent resource in tomorrow's world. So I'm looking forward to having a bit of a chat about that.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, where do you want to be?
When I started with the liquor brands, again, I came on as an ambassador, and I really just wanted to be a part of the industry. Liquor sales. I mean, it just seemed so fun. Where we're at now, I just want to go ahead and go out to inspire bartenders to follow what they want to do in the industry. Public speaking at some bartending academies is really what I look to do in the next year and the years to come, and create more online trainings.
And what are those trainings going to be about in the future?
A lot of it is going to be geared towards digital marketing. Next year, we're going to be coming out with Instagram for bartenders, just Instagram etiquette for bartenders. How about that? So how to jump in the DMs of different liquor brands that they're looking to work with and post photos and tag different companies that they're looking to affiliate with. Things like that.
So you also mentioned there about public speaking. How are you going to do that? How are you going to take that step and start getting some public speaking gigs?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I did my first speaking gig June of this year at a bartender boot camp in Atlanta, and I failed horribly. I came to Atlanta to give a speech about, branding for bartenders. And I was telling the bartenders about how I got with my first liquor company, and somehow I got off track and it just went downhill from there. Being prepared is one of the biggest things that you can be when you're being a speaker. Just going over what you plan to talk about time and time again. So that's what I've been working on now. What I look to do going forward is just to contact all my local bartending schools and ask if they would have me speak.
You just give them a call. Do you already know them, or are you going to just look it up online?
Just look it up online. Just build a list of, some that are local in the state of Florida and see if they'll have me. A lot of bartending schools, they do offer like job placement things like that. And I think that a branding seminar, a branding speech is something that's way more beneficial to bartenders that are graduating a bar school.
What plans do you have for the industry, for the hospitality industry, and the way that you want to contribute long term? I mean, obviously, we're talking about branding for bartenders at the moment, but if we look way into the future, what is it that you want to do? What influence do you want to have on the overall industry?
Again, man, it still lies with the bartenders. Outside of what we're doing now, I think eventually we will grow into something like an intermediary where we are actively connecting bartenders to liquor companies, somewhat like a staffing agency or an influencer marketing agency, better yet, where there are plenty of liquor brands that are looking for well-known bartenders with tons of followers, and with us already being tapped in to that resource, to a base of bartenders, I think naturally we'll grow into an intermediary.
Yeah, excellent. This is my final question for you, Azzy. What's that next step for you?
Next step is really just getting branding for bartenders launched next month. Getting the feedback. I can't wait until I get my first testimonial of someone saying, hey, this changed my life.
Love it. It's been an awesome chat with you today. It's almost 3 a.m. for me here, so I'm going to have to wrap it up, but it's been incredible, and I really enjoy every time that we have a chat. Thank you very much, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, James.
Stay in touch with the show after hours at Hospopreneurs on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Do you know a hospopreneur? Shoot us an email, hospopreneurs@gmail.com. Creativity and innovation in hospitality. The Hospopreneurs Podcast with James Henderson.